Good morning, everyone. My name is Jan Narasimhan, and I will be your moderator for today's webinar. On behalf of Beroe, I would like to welcome you all to another webinar from Beroe Insights. In today's webinar, we will have our presenter discuss the medical device CMOs mergers and acquisitions. So before we move ahead with the presentation, I have a few general set of instructions as always. Please note that all the attendees will be placed on mute. During the course of the presentation, if you would like to post questions, you will find a box on the right-hand side indicated in red. I request you to type in your question and hit the send button. As the presentation progresses, I will note down the high-frequency questions and pose it to the presenter at the end of the session. If you experience any connectivity issues, I request you to close the window, go back to the email, and try to reconnect using the same link. If there are further problems, please do not hesitate to email Puneet at puneet.ramal@beroe-inc.com, which you can also find in the email shared with you earlier. Moving on, let me quickly introduce our presenter for today's webinar. Chandrakant Gautam is a lead analyst for the medical device monitoring category at Beroe Inc. He specializes in electromedical and drug delivery devices, providing procurement-related intelligence and solutions to Fortune 500 companies. Chandrakant has also been an opinion leader in major events such as Informa Life Sciences Drug Delivery Summit, OMIC Group's Biosimilar Summit, and SMI Group Prefilled Syringe America Summit, among others. He's also written and published several thought leader papers in leading medical device journals. Some of the topics covered in his papers include REACH and ROHS, a pathway for medical device buyers, conflict mineral compliance, technology and its role in medical devices, etc. He's also a community leader on LinkedIn, which houses close to 400 experts and moderate discussions on industry trends. So without further ado, let me pass it on to Chandrakant.
Thank you, Janni. Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. Over a period of time, medical device industry has been monitored from various perspectives, be that of buyers, suppliers, or new entrants. While IPOs, VC funding, and product approvals remain the key area of focus for aforementioned players, recent activities have shown significant uptick in mergers and acquisition in terms of number and values. What caught our attention was CMO industries whose activity in M&A space were chaotic at one end but had something unique for the buyers to look into. And hence, our topic for medical device CMO, mergers and acquisition, hidden pattern for buyers. Aggressive consolidation by medical device CMOs has resulted in a need to identify hidden patterns and evaluate the benefits for medical device buyers. Our agenda for today's webinar includes what is triggering mergers and acquisition in medical device CMOs? What are the hidden patterns and how could they be put to use? What are the services that are being added by leading CMOs in their product offerings? What are major KPIs that need to be evaluated? So the moment any merger and acquisition happens, medical device buyers get baffled by factors such as diminishing negotiation power, over-dependency on suppliers, increased pricing, and others. Amid all these points, buyers tend to overlook the hidden patterns, which, if put to practicality, could address their supply chain complexity. And it's those patterns that we'll talk about today. Through this webinar, we hope to look into the intricacy of these patterns and factors triggering the same. What are the chain of events that propelled these mergers and acquisition? To understand this, it is important that we look into the demand, the factors which were the key contributors to mergers and acquisitions. The steady drift of medical device buyers towards sales and marketing, R&D, and technology scouting resulted in increased manufacturing outsourcing. And hence, COGS, which represents the manufacturing, took a steady decline. As a result, CMOs began to expand and fill the gap, and one of the ideal gateways for expansion is mergers and acquisition. Further, to corroborate our above points, here are some numbers which clearly depicts how manufacturing shrinked in an overall operation of OEMs and other core competency became the center of focus. Drift of medical device OEM towards core competency was long awaited, and it reached its tipping point in recent time because there was a rationale attached to it. Rationale being innovation guided revenue. A quick look at the top 10 medical device OEMs revenue indicates that the products launched in last 24 months generated close to 65% of the revenue. The increased focus on innovation and R&D is need for the hour for the buyers. While buyers were focusing on their efforts to scale up their success through R&D and sales and marketing, medical device CMOs prepared themselves to address current and future requirement of buyers. Increasingly, CMOs ensured that manufacturing best practices are growing on par with the buyer's innovation. As outsourcing continues to become an integral part of OEM's operation, they must now be aware of medical device CMO activities. What CMOs are doing at their end. Medical device CMO activities included everything from partnership, acquisition, product launch, and expansion. A quick look at CMO activity meter puts across the fact that mergers and acquisition and also expansion remained ahead of other activities and required a special insight. Acquisition and expansion remained the core focus of medical device CMOs for the last few years, with deals of Acclent, Symmetry, Great Batch, and Orchid being some of the noteworthy ones. Now, did these acquisitions have some hidden motive, or did it follow some common trend? Yes, it did. A trend where it all started from. Medical device CMOs expansion through M&A had this unique pathway or a lane that they walked on. That is, they first added services in one therapeutic area, aced in the same, and then headed to a novel therapeutic focus. Let's look at the leading CMO, Great Batch Medical. A quick look at Great Batch brought forward a unique conclusion. That is, this individual company first acquired a design firm, technology support firm, and later a manufacturing firm, and scaled up his capabilities in cardiac space to a level that 70% of defibrillators relied on Great Batch batteries. Post this, it headed on to the orthopedic segment through Precimed acquisition. This would be one key insight that buyer need to look into and find the overlap. Now, would it be right to infer that all the leading medical device CMOs through M&As first strengthen their position in current segments and then expand to novel areas? And base the entire industry hypothesis just on Great Batch? I think not. Let's take a look at the bigger picture. A quick look at top 15 CMOs, which accounted for close to 50% of the market, had a similar story to tell. Every top 15 CMO, be it Acclent, Symmetry, Hedius Medical, Fort Wayne, or Trivenix, stood either on the same path as Great Batch or a path closer to it. All the top 15 CMOs were involved in mergers and acquisition spree. The only difference was few had acquisition counts and deal values high, while the others had low. That is, Acclent and Symmetry had their deal counts and deal size going as high as $8 and $250 million, while Fort Wayne and Tech Group juggled around deal count and deal size of $50 and $5 million. But what is important to look into is everyone was run for M&A with the motive to cater to medical device buyers. Acclent, Great Batch, Symmetry, Orchid, Harris Medical, each of them participated in one or more mergers and acquisition, and each had something unique to offer to buyers. This brings us to center of our discussion. Now these acquisitions and patterns are coming to the fore, and I'm sure that the factors such as increased supply power, increased price do not seem to be of high concern. All these activities are leading us to these outputs and opportunities that medical device buyer must be aware of. Earlier we had seen some significant acquisitions by the top 15 CMOs. We will identify the avenues that could be leveraged to optimize the supply chain complexity. CMOs are increasingly diversifying their product portfolio by addition of services and therapeutic areas, resulting in one-stop shop for the buyers. Emerging market expansion has resulted not just in cost savings for CMOs, but also emergence of region as an innovation hub. New entrants venturing into medical devices have not only made the market more competitive, but have also provided multiple options for buyers. Acquisition amid top 15 CMOs and identification of avenues to be leveraged. Looking at top CMOs mergers and acquisition pattern, what is noteworthy is the steep increase in the market share post the acquisitions. When number 1 CMO Acclent, number 4 CMO Harriers, and number 9 Orchid acquired CMO amid the top 15 list, industry looked at the cons of the deals. That is, Acclent with now share of 18%, Harriers with 6%, and Orchid with 4% has made supplier market complex in terms of leverageability and negotiation. Rather than looking at the market share scale up, we should be focusing on increased capacity and increased therapeutic focus of CMOs. Because Acclent now is a CMO who can cater to across multiple therapeutic front with the increased capacity. Harriers can now support not only cardiac segment but surgical too. Not to forget Orchid that caters to J&J, Zimmer and many others in orthopedic space because of the acquisition which complemented their focus on orthopedic segment. So if we come to analyze the overall scenario, each option has multiple choices attached to it. All these create one-stop shop for two critical areas, therapeutic and service. Now let's look at the bigger picture by moving away from top 15 CMOs and looking at the market as a whole. While there is an enhancement of therapeutic areas occurring at one end, there is an addition of the same at the other. At service end 2, suppliers have added capabilities and enhanced the existing ones. While the design has been a forerunner in the service front, orthopedic and surgical segments have been torchbearers at therapeutic side. What is noteworthy is there is a room for consolidation for both increased volume and diversified products. Design might be the forerunner, but it's not the only service line that witnessed increased merger and acquisition deals. While sterilization had Nordion and Sterigenics as the most talked about deal, design had Great Batch and NeuronX's M&A. Assembly and manufacturing are some of the other areas that are witnessing an increased M&A too. On the therapeutic front, surgical segment requires a special mention on the account of increased M&A trends associated with it both in developed and emerging markets. Some of the most prominent deals in the space of orthopedics being Doncaster acquiring Sandvik Medical Solution, which in turn was acquired by Orchard. This brings us to our third point, emerging market penetration of CMO. Emerging market was long considered as a leverageable region for expansion with the presence of regional players whose capabilities could be tapped. However, there has been a dearth of success stories mainly due to regulatory complications and patent infringements. Having said that, we have noticed over past few years there has been significant activities in emerging markets fueled by increased mergers and acquisitions. Close to 15% of mergers and acquisitions were routed to emerging markets. This has been further validated by the series of mergers and acquisitions carried out by CMO giants such as Acclent, Flextronics, and others. CMOs have begun to ramp up their emerging facilities to meet the global standard. An interesting point to look into is that most of these facilities were devoted to cater to developed market needs of medical device buyers. As we spoke about Flextronics in our last slide, was not the player that gets talked about in medical device CMO space that loud and now has garnered attention of medical device OEMs, mainly on the account of majority chunk in emerging market activity was taken by this individual CMO. Looking at different avenues associated with the healthcare industry, non-core players have started to pour in with an offerings in par with the current players. To quote a case study of Flextronics is relevant here as series of acquisitions that Flextronics carried out, example Revisa, Avail Medical, and Stellar Microelectronics, is an acknowledgement of non-core industry interest in a booming medical device industry. Jabil is yet another player marking a significant presence in healthcare through Nipro acquisition. The patterns discussed earlier have brought forward unique cases which leave medical device buyers with an option to consolidate at each and every facet of the value chain. One must evaluate criticality and maturity of each of these scopes and use it to the fullest of one's requirement. At service front, when once market had standalone service provider, now there are vendors who can accommodate more than one services for you. Not to forget the critical services, services that determine the success and failure of your product. Consolidation of critical services such as molding and manufacturing and design goes to prove that medical device CMOs are capable of much more than just manufacturing. Great Batch, Orchids, Acclent are live examples proving the above fact. At therapeutic front, CMOs are increasingly focusing on a multi-play rather than a standalone therapeutic specialization. Cardiac and orthopedic with the case study of Great Batch, and orthopedic and surgical with the case study of Symmetry are examples quoting the feasibility of therapeutic focus consolidation. Device phase criticality has again consolidation flag wavering all over it, where medical device buyers now can approach medical device CMOs not just for current generation of their devices, but future generation too. Orchid design capabilities and specialty in orthopedic proves how ready medical device CMOs are to cater to medical device buyers' requirement. As far as emerging market leverageability is considered, previous slide throws good light in terms of what are the activities that are happening in emerging market space, and the pioneers in terms of activities carried out by medical device CMO include Flextronics, Acclent, and many others. A quick look at the individual segments show how ready medical device CMO industry is in regards to service consolidation, therapeutic consolidation, product and market consolidation. Service consolidation had each of the points evaluated in terms of how ready the category is when it comes to supplier readiness, cost savings, innovation support. Service consolidation category seems pretty mature. Therapeutic consolidation again was evaluated in terms of supplier readiness, technology readiness, and capacity addition. All these areas again waved a green flag, and the category was pretty much prepared for medical device buyers' requirement. Emerging market venture has good number of deals. However, in terms of deals which were materialized, this category is still not matured and hence would require a good amount of time to cater to medical device OEMs requirement. It's for the medical device buyers to evaluate their areas of interest, challenges faced, and the need of the hour. It's a time for medical device buyers to leverage the opportunities put forth by mergers and acquisition. Mergers and acquisition in medical device industry may seem chaotic at present. However, closer examination, one can find pattern in chaos in the emerge and the patterns being the therapeutic focus consolidation, cost savings, service consolidation, product consolidation, and much more. So it's the time for the medical device buyers to look into this pattern and see what are the opportunities that this pattern throws on table and how to leverage it to the best of their interest. Thank you for your time, and do let me know if you have any questions.
Thank you, Chandrakant. Before we look at the questions posted by the listeners, I have one question for you. Between a design firm with standalone service and a medical device CMO with design services, according to you, which is an ideal engagement?
It's a good question and is very much dependent on what generation is your device at. That is, if medical device OEMs are looking to launch a novel product, then it makes sense for them to go ahead and partner with design companies, as they would route all their technical know-how in product innovation. As CMO engagement for the same would make medical device CMO design in accordance with the manufacturing model, which is a major revenue generating for medical device CMO industry.
Thank you. Can medical device CMO enter into private labeling?
Few of the vendors in the global front do provide private labeling. To quote an example, Teleflex is one of the leading players which provide private labeling. However, this practice is more prevalent in emerging market where regional OEMs also have private labeling as a service line. But developed market have seen relatively low penetration for private labeling.
All right. I think we have one more question. In the emerging markets, what are the key countries in which medical devices CMOs are expanding?
That's a nice question. Ireland had been a long considered as a medical device CMO hub, and due to high technical know-how, moderate labor rates, and proximity to the major medical device companies in Europe, this has been a focus of all the medical device buyers. However, if you look in the recent past where the activities of medical device CMOs are heading, few of the countries, just to quote an example, Mexico, Costa Rica, Brazil, and China are turning out to be the next emerging markets for medical device CMOs.
Okay, I think this one is a related question. At innovation and technology scouting front, what are the regions, maybe emerging markets, that are witnessing high attention from medical device OEMs?
If you just look at the innovation front, Israel has been the hotbed for medical device OEMs for quite long, and you could find every big medical device company from Medtronic, J&J, and Boston Scientific have at least one deal routed to the Israel front. The main factor being, the technical know-how of Israel in terms of medical device space, and it being the hotbed for this medical device startups. It's kind of something that pushes across, Israel as a leading country in terms of innovation of medical devices.
Thank you, Chandrakant. That wraps up our presentation. Many thanks for joining us today. Have a nice day and hope you have a wonderful weekend ahead. Thank you.